You must check Coltrane's awesome phrasing. And Chris Potter's scary good articulation. I think I could have taken any of the greats and put in this video. They have all great phrasing and amazing articulation. And I want to go exactly through this articulation and phrasing and why it is this important and how you should learn it. This phrase of John Coltrane. When I listen to John Coltrane, I hear a lot of stuff. But it's not about the notes, it's about the phrasing. Listen to how this phrase is getting intenser when it moves up, and when it moves down it gets less intense. When you want this amazing sound in your playing, you need to push from your abdomen lots of air. I listen to this line without phrasing, then it really sounds dull. The basic rule would be playing any line ascending, you need to put more power towards the top, and when you're moving down you can put less power. I'm not saying you shouldn't put power on, but less power. When you hit that top, you are at the climax, so add articulation. So for example, when you play your scales next time, try to do this breathing control exercise. Start slowly, go more and more intense the higher you get, and then get less intense. In an arpeggio exercise I can do exactly the same. Adding a little bit intensity up each arpeggio, but throughout the whole line I add more and more intensity towards the end of the line and towards the top of the line. Let's listen to Mr. PC. And of course a huge part of the phrasing is the details. What do you want the line to lead into? You can lead into a tone by adding articulation or intensify the phrasing towards that tone or to that tone exactly. These tones are mostly the highest tones in any line. You hear how I articulate and intensify the top notes of this line. As you probably know, I love putting jazz licks into exercise and vice versa. This means I can isolate the exact exercise I want to train and keep my focus on only that thing. Try playing an exercise like this. It's a basic 4-note grouping up the scale. In each 4-note grouping I add more and more power going up the 4-note grouping. I also add an accent to the top note of each 4-note group, and then I intensify the whole line towards the end and towards the high note of the end. This line starts on the climax at high D and then moves slowly down, and you can definitely hear that in Coltrane's playing. And when you get lower towards the end of the line, you can hear that the intensity lessens. A great exercise to do this is composing your own scale lines. Start high with high intensity and move slowly down towards the end that's a little bit lower, and at the end I only play a little bit less intense. Another thing you could do when you're composing your own lines is figure out where you want the accents to be, so accent the strong points of the line. Here I'm putting an accent on the high points of the line and those small changes from a high point to a down point. Of course you can learn this stuff by doing some exercise, but the most important thing is listen to the masters of jazz. They do the right thing. Coltrane is really famous for these run-ups the scale and up the arpeggios. And clearly they begin less intense and end really intense high up there. You can take some of Coltrane's licks and make a little exercise out of this. This is Coltrane's dominant lick made in chromatic steps down. I just mentioned that you should keep your focus on what's important. If you want to take it a step down, just take the scale and move up arpeggios or scale runs. And of course you should add articulation and phrasing going up and make it more intense every line. Through the whole video I've talked about articulation, but I didn't really mention how to. Coltrane does it great here in Oleo. Listen to Chris Potter. I want to do a short touchdown on articulation because this is very, very important. When Coltrane is playing any tune, Mr. PC or Oleo, he's doing the standard jazz articulation. When you listen to Chris Potter in a little bit more modern jazz setting, you hear this kind of articulation. In the more modern jazz style, Chris Potter's articulation is much more staccato-like and on the beats. When you're playing your scale runs, you can add staccato effect to it. And remember to add the phrasing where you're intensifying the lines going up. this Chris Potter blues, The Source, inspired by Coltrane, you really hear how he's accenting the notes with staccato, still making the lines slurred that they fit into the jazz idiom. And if you listen really carefully, you can see that Chris Potter, so as Coltrane, adds accents to the top notes of the lines. When you have trained the staccato, you can really benefit from getting a much more articulate articulation. You can incorporate the heavy staccato accents into very melodic lines. I've made up this exercise getting staccato exercise but also getting accents on different points in the bar. Moving up and down the scale like this makes your fingers very agile, adding the staccato effect and the accents and the phrasing to it. And it's an amazing feature to have in your playing. Make sure you get a great start when adding phrasing and articulation into your playing. In the lesson manual on Patreon, I of course added all the exercises for you to really develop your articulation and phrasing. Get the lesson manual in all 12 keys on Patreon, the link is in the description. If I was you, I would click on this Chris Potter video because I can never get enough. Check him out in his amazing rhythmic universe in this praised video. Play music, have fun.